this is my review of Cells at Work Code Black. Okay, so if you guys have hung around my channel long enough, you know that I am currently reviewing Cells at Work. The main continuity of the Cells at Work community. There's like seven or so spin-offs, this Cells at Work Code Black being one of them. And if you guys have seen my reviews of that, you know that Cells at Work, that the main continuity of Cells at Work is a lighthearted comedy about cells in the human body with a few, and that occasionally gets a little bit dark, but not really. And that one is mainly about cells that live in a stable, healthy human body that occasionally bumps its head or something and gets into an accident, which is what causes the plot to happen. But for the most part, it's a healthy human body with no real problems with it. But Cells at Work, and then we have Cells at Work Code Black, which is what I'm currently reviewing, which is a bit different. It's a little bit darker, I'm gonna put out, because whereas Cells at Work addresses that healthy human bodies are a thing and that everybody should strive to have a healthy human body, Cells at Work Code Black doesn't stray away from that and actually goes into a much darker truth that not everybody does take care of themselves. Some people do eat like crap and drink too much and smoke and a whole bunch of other things that aren't good for them. And this anime addresses that. This anime addresses the harmful effects that it can have on your body if you don't take care of yourself. Case in point, mirroring the first episode of the original Cells at Work, it shows their main protagonist, AA2153. It showcases him during a pneumococcal attack alongside his co-star, U1196. And the two are going through an oxygen escort for themselves with basically Red Blood, basically 2143 is carrying his blood through the body. In 1196 is acting as his arm's escort during a pneumococcal attack. But that's where the kind of diverges a little bit, because unlike in the original Cells at Work where the infection is mostly contained, here most of the red blood cells are quickly overrun, and 1196 is the only white blood cell available to help. So she's basically the only one who's able to help him at the current time. In which we actually flash back to 2143's first day on the job. He's fresh out of graduation. He's ready to go start his job as a red blood cell. And he's even looking forward to it and a little bit exciting. He has this big notebook full of notes. He has this little notebook that he keeps in his pocket full of notes. He keeps diligent notes about all the different things he's going to need to remember while he's working as a red blood cell, so that he doesn't get lost, unlike his main continuity counterpart, who gets lost all the time. And he even watches a training video that showcases how happy and loving this working as a red blood cell is going to be. It showcases him working as a red blood cell, interacting with the platelets. It showcases the red blood cells interacting with the cells and getting to know one another. And basically it's just a cheesy 1980s style training video where they just show off all the benefits of the job and how cool it's going to be and how you can be your best self and all that crap. And sure enough, all the red blood cells are training, and they're also trying to work through poor work. They're also trying to do with work performance so that people can work smarter and better, and have better, and kind of minimize overtime a little bit, which is something that the original Cells at Work just kind of doesn't address. That the whole hemoglobin red blood cell thing is kind of treated more like a company where everybody is paid to do their job, but they do their best to try and minimize overtime as much as possible. And sure enough, 2143 and his fellow red blood cells, they're all getting ready to go to the job. They're all joking around about how good they're going to do at their job, and one of them even remarks about 2143 kind of taking it a little too seriously, since they're just red blood cells and all they really need to know is deliver oxygen, and that's it. And with that, they're going to their training only to discover that they're not going to be getting any training, and this is where the whole facade about how it's going to be a happy, healthy work environment kind of just breaks down. So they're immediately met by their superior red blood cells, who have been doing this for a long ass time, and it's clear that they've seen some shit in that time. So, and they quickly point out that they're kind of understaffed, and they need their help immediately. And basically their entire job is that they're going to work until they can't. So they're just kind of have to push through. And they do exactly that. All the red blood cells go their separate ways, and then 2143, he's trying to figure out where he's supposed to go to actually go to the stomach. At which point he's yelled at by platelets, oddly enough. The cheery little chibi children things that just kind of exist in the main continuity of Cells at Work, and they're generally happy and pleasant. That just kind of isn't the case here. They immediately snap at 2143 for going too slow and tell him to basically get out of their way, or they'll be held to pay. And he does it, and is also a bit confused as to why they're so jumpy at him, but he brushes it off for now and goes on his merry way toward the stomach, where he meets another cell that he met in the video, gastric commander cell, or whatever it's called. But in any case, he meets the chief stomach cell commander, and tries to do exactly what he did, what it was in the video. But the guy just snaps at him for delivering oxygen way too slow, and also points out that he doesn't have time to learn the guy's name. At which point 2143 is a little bit confused about how he's so different from how he was in the video, and at which point the guy reveals that it was actually filmed many years ago, and circumstances have changed substantially since then. Namely that the body has been eating, as I said, the body's been eating like crap and drinking too much. So because of that, the body is just kind of slowly breaking down and deteriorating, so they don't really have any spare moments for formalities. So, and also that's when 2143 realizes that working in the human body isn't going to be all it's cracked up to be. And case in point, as he's delivering oxygen to the main organs, as he's been instructed by his superiors, one of the cells in the extremities actually yells at him for skimping on the oxygen lately, and all he can really do is apologize, pointing out the situation, but she's still upset with him. At which point, another red blood cell, again another superior of his, this one with a bald head, he apologizes for that and states that once the situation is worked out, she'll be getting plenty more oxygen where that came from, and that seems to calm her down for a bit. At which point he proceeds to give some hands-on training to 2143 and explains the situation to him. Explains that how he's supposed to behave as a red blood cell. And 2143 also understandably asks about how nice he was to actually offer some extra oxygen to that cell that they just talked to, only for him to point out that it was a complete lie and that things aren't foreseen to get any better anytime soon. Understandably, 2143 is shocked by this revelation about how he's just kind of putting a happy smile on his face and just kind of doing whatever it takes to get through his job, and asks how he can continue to smile despite knowing how bad the work conditions are. And the red blood cell just states that he just suppresses all of his emotions and urges and stuff like that, and just focuses on getting the job done. It's because if the second he starts worrying about things, that's when he starts to lose his smile and is unable to keep his jovial expression. And sure enough, 2143 notices, yes, he doesn't. Though he is smiling, his eyes are kind of just dead inside. But in case they successfully make their first route through the body, and the red blood cell tells 2143 that he can rest, and then goes to check on something. But as 2143 is resting, the red blood cell from before, the one who yelled at him for being late, he shows up and yells at him for resting, basically, only for the two older blood cells to get into an argument about work ethics. Mainly the bald one is pointing out that they were able to spare time to actually train the red blood cells back in the day, and that he's misses the days when they can actually do that again. And whereas the other guy is just kind of upset about the fact that this red blood cell seems to be cuddling the rookies a bit too much. And with that, the guy just leaves in a huff, and the two go on, and the rest of the red blood cells just kind of go on their merry way. At which point they arrive at a split at the road, and discover sure enough that now, for whatever reason, there's a carbon monoxide leak just in the body, and they are not entirely sure what's going on. But in any case, there's kind of a problem, because carbon monoxide is toxic to red blood cells. It causes them to turn into carboxyhemoglobin, which basically means that they bind with the hemoglobin in their bodies just kind of binds with the carbon monoxide to form a new compound that is completely incapable of delivering oxygen. Case in point, several red blood cells are in there when the carbon monoxide gas hits, and they just turn into red-faced zombies and proceed to attack everything indiscriminately. At which point, 2143 begins to ask, well, where did this carbon monoxide come from? It had to have come from somewhere. But of course, to make matters worse, some pneumococcuses which have suddenly just shown up out of the blue. They show up to take advantage of the situation and begin targeting the now zombified red blood cells and using them for nutrients. And all 2143 and his superior can do is run like hell. So at which point they do, and are almost caught by a pneumococcus. At which point 1196 bursts out of the ceiling and begins attacking pneumococcuses and defending them, pointing out that, and sure enough, she begins telling them that they should go and keep delivering their oxygen while she handles things. At which point, as the two red blood cells are running, 2143, understandably, after all the shit he's seen up to this point, has a nervous breakdown, pointing out that he doesn't want to do his job anymore and he just wants to quit and just give up. But his superior points out that that's not an option for them anymore. The problem with that being, well, they kind of can't. So red blood cells, as part of their properties of becoming red blood cells, forfeit a lot of the things that other cells need to function. They don't need their nucleuses. They don't need their what are they called? Mitochondria. They don't need any of that. Their sole purpose is to deliver oxygen and nutrients to the rest of the body, and they're going to do that even if it kills them. So, and with that, his superior tells him to continue on the route that we're going to take, which is to go to the lungs, while he goes to deliver the blood back to, while he goes to deliver oxygen back to the stomach. But 2143 quickly realizes shortly after he leaves that that's a suicide mission, because not only is that where the carbon monoxide is coming from, but on top of that, there is all plaqued over because while they were there, they actually saw that it was filling up with basically it was just the arteries are just plaquing up again because smoking drugs, alcohol, and all that crap. So they found that out briefly as they were traveling through to get to the lungs and all that stuff. And sure enough, but in any case, long story short, the red blood cell just kind of dies, sort of. He turns into carboxyhemoglobin, and all 2143 can do is cry in despair and clutch his hat in despair as he realizes that his superior is never coming back to him. And he proceeds to chase after him, only for 1196 to stop him and tell him that he shouldn't let the other red blood cells sacrifice be in vain, and to continue doing his job. So they continue onward to the lungs together. At which point they discover the cause of the carbon monoxide. As it turns out, the body that they're in has started smoking again after 10 years, and it has caused the lungs to just clog up, and now it can't deliver oxygen efficiently. And 2143 understandably asks why to 1196 why the body would actually continue to smoke something that's bad for them. And 1196 just explains that smoking, in addition to causing problems with the brain and the receptors in the brain, Also is addictive as hell because of nicotine, and that regardless of how hard the body wants to quit, it can't. So it's just going to continue smoking again and again and cause more problems for their body. And 2143 quickly realizes that if it starts smoking after 10 years, then that's only going to continue to escalate. So yeah. This episode is a perfect first episode because not only does it just showcase, it hits pretty hard how dark. It has a lot of dark humor in it. It's a very dark. It's a much darker version of Cells at Work. But the idea behind it is that this is basically a wake-up call for everybody who smokes like crap, drinks, and eats too much. It explains that, hey, don't do any of these things or you are going to wind up exactly like you are in this anime and manga. Don't do this because this is a problem. So that's basically what this anime is. It's just showcasing all the harmful effects with not taking care of yourself and what kind of effects that can have on your body. So it's basically a wake-up call for all those people who eat like crap and drink too much and do a whole bunch of other things that aren't good for them. So yeah, it's a pretty dark anime, and it's definitely similar enough to Cells at Work that I feel like it's a good enough jumping on point. It's a good enough, if you don't like the original Cells at Work and how lighthearted comedy it is, I definitely think you will like this one because it is basically a completely different show. It's a much darker, much grittier version of that same concept, and it explains why you shouldn't do some of the things that may or may not be harmful to you. So yeah, it does beat it over by showing the actual effects that it would have on your body. So I definitely recommend checking this anime out. I'm going to be continuing to review it alongside the original Cells at Work Season 2. And I'm just gonna kind of go through it, and that's why I kind of said my review schedule might be a little bit nutty for a few months or so. I pointed that out. I pointed it out in the 2020 is here video or whatever it's called. Basically, yeah, we have two anime from the same series airing alongside one another, and that's just the start of a whole bunch of nutty stuff that's going to go on with the anime production schedule going into 2021. So yeah, that's a thing. But in any case, that's my review of Cells at Work Code Black. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And if you want to help support my show, then be sure to check out my Patreon. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and so I would definitely appreciate if you guys gave that a gander and just kind of helped out with the channel however much you can. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!